Imagine being stripped of light, space, and human contact. Confined, isolated, every sense screaming, every second an eternity. Now, imagine that nightmare stretching not for days, not for months, but for 5 excruciating years. Today, Dark Truth Files uncovers the chilling, true story of Daniel Thorne, a man who faced the unimaginable, locked in a box for 5 years, and survived. This isn't just a tale of survival, it's a terrifying tutorial on the breaking point of the human mind and the unbelievable resilience required to endure total sensory deprivation and reclaim your sanity. Introduction: The Vanishing Act. A Life Erased. Our story begins in 2017. In a quiet suburb of Oregon, USA, Daniel Thorne, a seemingly ordinary data analyst, vanished without a trace. No struggle, no ransom note, just a void. His disappearance baffled police and left his family shattered. But Daniel wasn't dead. He was about to enter a world beyond comprehension. The premise of the confinement. The black site theory. Unbeknownst to the world, Daniel had stumbled upon sensitive data related to a covert government black site project, accidentally accessing files far beyond his security clearance. To prevent a leak, he was not eliminated, but contained. A chilling form of detention designed for absolute secrecy. The box. This box was no ordinary cell. It was a specially constructed, soundproofed, light-proofed, and insulated chamber, buried deep underground beneath an abandoned facility in the Nevada desert. Its purpose: complete sensory deprivation and psychological containment. The goal: to ensure absolute secrecy, break Daniel's will, and erase his memory of what he knew without leaving a body or a conventional prison record. We will now walk you through the chilling tutorial of how Daniel Thorne survived 5 years in this ultimate confinement, the terrifying techniques he used, and the profound cost of his survival. Lesson 1. The initial descent. When reality shatters, the first few days and weeks in total confinement are crucial. The mind, accustomed to constant stimulation, struggles against the void, threatening to unravel completely. This was Daniel's first tutorial in managing immediate psychological collapse. Step 1. The terrifying void. The darkness. The moment the heavy, airtight door sealed, Daniel was plunged into absolute, crushing darkness. Not a flicker, not a ray. His eyes strained, searching for non-existent light, eventually seeing only distorted patterns born from his own brain. The silence, the soundproofing was total. No distant city hum, no footsteps, not even the sound of his own breath seemed audible at first. The only sounds were his own heartbeat, the rush of blood in his ears, and eventually, the terrifying sounds of his own mind. The confinement, the space, was minimal, barely enough to stand, sit, or lie down comfortably. He could touch all 4 walls with outstretched arms. The claustrophobia was overwhelming, a constant physical pressure on his chest. Step 2. The battle for sanity. Hallucinations. Within days, hallucinations began. Visual distortions, phantom lights, then complex, vivid images. Auditory hallucinations followed. Whispers, music, familiar voices calling his name. This was his brain, starved of input, creating its own reality. Loss of time and space. Without light or external cues, his sense of time dissolved. Days blended into nights, minutes into hours. He tried counting heartbeats, counting breaths, but eventually the numbers lost meaning. His internal clock went wild. Physical degradation. His muscles atrophied from lack of movement. His eyes began to ache from perpetual darkness. His digestive system struggled with the minimal, bland, liquid nutrient meals delivered through a small, unseen slot at irregular intervals, further disorienting him. Imagine hearing voices that aren't there, seeing shadows that don't exist, and completely losing your grip on time. For Daniel, the box wasn't just a physical prison. It was a torture chamber designed to shatter his mind. How does one fight an enemy that comes from within, when every sense is screaming and your own brain turns against you. The first few months in that box were not just about survival. They were a harrowing lesson in resisting utter madness. Lesson 2. The mind's resilience. Building an inner world. After the initial breakdown, the human mind, in an astonishing act of resilience, attempts to adapt. Daniel's tutorial shifted from fighting madness to strategically constructing an internal world to fill the terrifying void. Step 1. Establishing a routine internal clock recreation. Daniel forced himself into a routine, using his bodily functions as rough guides. He'd pretend it was morning, do a set number of push-ups, then eat, then sleep. This gave him a semblance of structure, no matter how arbitrary. Sensory engagement. To combat sensory deprivation, he engaged in self-stimulation. He'd rub his fingers over every inch of the box's smooth, cold surface, trying to map its texture. He'd make small sounds, humming, whispering, just to hear something. This was his way of clinging to the physical world. Mental exercises. He accessed his memories. He'd mentally walk through his childhood home, recalling every detail. He'd recite entire books he'd read, movie scripts he remembered, songs he knew. His mind became a vast library, meticulously organized and replayed. This was his key survival tactic. Step 2. The art of disassociation. Daydreaming and fantasy. To escape the crushing reality, Daniel learned to disassociate. He created elaborate fantasy worlds in his mind. He became an explorer on distant planets, a detective solving complex cases, a musician playing grand symphonies. These weren't just daydreams. They were vital coping mechanisms. The visitor, he created an imaginary companion, a projection of his own subconscious, perhaps a version of his younger self, with whom he would talk. This allowed him to externalize his thoughts, to have conversations, preventing complete conversational isolation. Controlling hallucinations. Over time, he learned to somewhat control his hallucinations. Instead of fighting them, he'd try to steer them, turning frightening images into neutral or even pleasant ones. This was a terrifying but necessary skill. Imagine your memories, your entire past, becoming your only companion, your only escape. For Daniel, every detail, every face, every conversation he could conjure became a lifeline in the overwhelming darkness. But what happens when those memories start to fade, or worse, become distorted by the endless void? How long can a mind sustain a vibrant inner world before the walls of its literal prison begin to crumble the very foundations of its memory? His fight for sanity was just getting started. Lesson 3. The unseen gauntlet. The physical and psychological test. Beyond the initial shock and mental adaptations, prolonged confinement introduces new, insidious challenges that test the very limits of human endurance. Daniel's tutorial became a test of raw physical and psychological fortitude. Step 1. Sustaining the body the nutrient solution. His food was a bland, a tasteless, thick liquid delivered through a small tube. It provided basic nutrients, but no satisfaction, no texture, no variety. He learned to swallow quickly, associating the sound of the dispenser with the only real external interaction he had. Hygiene in darkness. His waste was removed via an unseen automated system. Personal hygiene was a constant struggle without light or proper facilities. This contributed to a profound sense of dehumanization, muscle atrophy, and movement. His body began to waste away. To counter this, he forced himself to do simple, repetitive exercises in the tiny space. Isometric contractions, gentle stretches. He learned to move with precision, mapping every inch of his confinement with his body. Step 2. The deep dive into memory. Replaying the incident to maintain his identity and purpose. Daniel forced himself to constantly replay the events that led to his capture. The accidental data breach. The chilling discovery of Project Chimera. The black site's existence. He knew he couldn't forget. The weight of knowledge. The knowledge he possessed, the real reason he was imprisoned became both his anchor and his torment. It fueled his will to survive, but also reminded him of the danger he represented and the world he had lost. The tests, from time to time, subtle changes would occur. A slightly different food taste. A barely perceptible hum in the wall. A moment where the silence wasn't absolute. These were psychological tests designed to see if he was breaking, if his mind was still functional. He learned to detect them, to resist reacting, to maintain his poker face even in complete darkness. 5 years. Years without sunlight, without fresh air, without a single human voice or face. The psychological pressure of this absolute void is unimaginable. His memories, his mental games, his physical exercises, they were his only companions. But how long can a human endure such profound sensory deprivation before the mind simply snaps, and the person locked in the box is replaced by an empty shell? The fight for his very soul was waged in silence, against a backdrop of nothingness. Lesson 4. The unexpected crack. The glimmer of the outside world. Even the most perfect confinement can suffer from human error or unforeseen external events. After 5 long years, a tiny, unexpected anomaly provided Daniel with the first, almost imperceptible, crack in his box. Step 1. The subtle vibration, the external disturbance. One day, after years of absolute silence, Daniel felt a faint, rhythmic vibration. It was too regular to be his own body. It was external. It grew slightly stronger during certain hours, then faded. Hypothesis and observation. Daniel, the data analyst, theorized. Construction, earthquakes. He meticulously, mentally timed the vibrations, trying to deduce their source. He concluded it was heavy machinery, perhaps demolition work, happening far above his underground chamber. The faint scent, a few months later, accompanying the vibrations, a faint, almost imperceptible scent began to penetrate his chamber. A hint of dust, concrete, and fresh air, carried by the subtle changes in pressure. This was his first real contact with the outside world in years. A tantalizing, agonizing tease of freedom. Step 2. The breach. The pressure change. As the vibrations intensified, Daniel noticed a minute, almost imperceptible change in air pressure within his chamber. It was so small, only someone acutely attuned to every sensation would notice. He realized the external demolition was weakening the structure above. The pinprick of light. Then, after a particularly violent tremor, a microscopic pinprick of light appeared in the absolute darkness. A tiny crack in the ceiling, no bigger than a needlepoint, allowing a single photon to reach his eyes for the first time in 5 years. The strategic exploitation. Daniel, now filled with a renewed surge of adrenaline, knew this was his only chance. He began to focus his meager strength. He used the sharp edge of his old, worn spoon to meticulously widen the crack, knowing any mistake could bring the whole structure down on him. This was excruciatingly slow work, each tiny gain a victory against the impossible. After 5 years, Daniel broke through. He felt the rush of fresh, cool air, tasted dust, and saw the faintest glow of the distant sun. He had physically breached the box, but he was still deep underground, under an unknown facility, likely in the middle of a vast, uninhabited desert. His physical escape from the box was just the first step. Now he faced the ultimate tutorial: how to survive a hostile environment, escape undetected from a secret government site, and confront a world that had forgotten him. Would his freedom be a true escape, or a fleeting moment before recapture or death? Lesson 5. The ultimate escape. Reclaiming a life from the abyss, breaking free from the box, was one thing. Escaping the black site and reclaiming his identity was another. Daniel's final tutorial was a desperate race against time. Leveraging every survival instinct honed in his unimaginable confinement. Step 1. Navigating the black site. The underground labyrinth, widening the crack enough. Daniel painfully pulled himself through, finding himself in a complex network of maintenance tunnels beneath the abandoned facility. His knowledge of data centers and server farms, ironically, helped him navigate. Avoiding detection, the demolition above provided a constant cover for noise. He moved cautiously, using the skills he had practiced mentally for years: stealth, silence, and hyper-awareness of faint sounds and vibrations. He found old, discarded utility worker uniforms, allowing him to blend in if seen. The exit point. He followed ventilation shafts and faint echoes of sounds from above, eventually locating an access tunnel leading to a disused service road, far from any security checkpoints. Step 2. Survival in the wilderness, the Nevada desert. Daniel emerged into the harsh, unforgiving Nevada desert. Weak, disoriented by the vast open space and blinding sunlight, he faced a new, brutal challenge: survival against the elements. Survival skills. He used his mental mapping skills to navigate by the sun and stars. He found scarce water sources: morning dew, small puddles from recent rain. He hunted small insects and plants he could identify as edible from old survival documentaries he'd mentally replayed. This was a raw, primal fight for life. Avoiding pursuit, he knew they would be searching. He left no tracks, covered his scent where possible, and moved mostly at night. His paranoia, honed in the box, became a life-saving skill. Step 3. Reconnecting with the world. The small town. After days of desperate travel, he reached a remote, forgotten Nevada town. His appearance, gaunt, disheveled, wild-eyed, terrified the locals. The unbelievable story he tried to explain, but his story of a black site and 5 years in a box sounded like the ravings of a madman. Police were skeptical, almost disbelieving. The proof: the physical atrophy of his muscles, his extreme sensitivity to light, and most importantly, the specific, highly classified data he could recall slowly convinced a sympathetic FBI agent. They confirmed the existence of a highly compartmentalized, now defunct, black site. Daniel Thorne's story, locked in a box for 5 years, and survived. It's a chilling tutorial on the unimaginable limits of human endurance. He faced absolute deprivation, psychological warfare, and overwhelming odds. His physical freedom was regained, but the true cost was immense. The aftermath: life in the light, haunted by shadows. Daniel recovered physically, but the psychological scars remained. He struggled with trust, claustrophobia, and a perpetual sense of being watched. He never truly felt free from the box. A voice for the unheard. He became an unlikely advocate for mental health in confinement and government oversight. His voice now a testament to unbreakable human spirit, sharing his chilling ordeal. The unanswered questions. The official story remained classified. The black site was decommissioned. But Daniel's survival forced the government to confront the dark, ethical questions surrounding such extreme methods of containment. Daniel Thorne survived 5 years locked in a box, a true testament to human resilience. His story forces us to confront the terrifying reality that the most brutal prisons aren't always made of iron and stone. Sometimes they are built with silence, darkness, and the chilling indifference of those who believe they are above the law. What does it truly mean to be free when the memory of the ultimate confinement forever lives in your mind? And how many other boxes exist unseen in the shadows of our world, still holding their secrets? For more chilling insights into government secrets, psychological horrors, and the incredible limits of human survival, make sure to subscribe to Dark Truth Files.